What's up, everybody? Welcome to Techfall Tabletalks. Today, my guest on this episode is Andrew Fallon. He's from Rhode Island. He's been wrestling a real long time. He's a good friend of mine. We talk all the time. And he's attending American University in Washington, D.C. So, today in this episode, we get into the dynamic of an Ivy League school. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of Cornell University. You think of the Ivy League, you think of Cornell, Columbia, and things like that. But they're actually not all the same. So we get into a bit of that and just the interesting dynamic of how different colleges have chosen to either work around, some have avoided, some have been able to push through the COVID ramifications in terms of athletics, in terms of the schools themselves, and how the athletes are being managed, compensated, and things like that during this crazy time. We also get into the interesting dynamic of, well, actually, it's interesting and rather unique, of coming from a lesser known wrestling community. Because as far as I know, there haven't been any big deal wrestlers coming out of Rhode Island. But there were a pocket of really good guys that have come on, I'd say around 2017, and that's when Andrew and I had met. And it's him, another good friend of mine, Nick Fine, a real good friend of his, and it's the two of them and a few other people that Andrew gets into that they've really been able to make waves in Rhode Island and make waves across the nation. So we get into a bit of that, the recruiting process, and much more. So, hey, it's going to be a real good show, guys. Enjoy it.
Hey, what's up, Julius?
What's up, Andrew? How's it going?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, let this audience know what the deal is.
All right. So, I'm a freshman. I wrestle Division I at American University, and I'm a 125 pounder. So, didn't get to wrestle this year, but excited for the future. I went to Bishop Hendricken High School in Rhode Island, and I'm a 3-time state champion and a New England champion. So I wrestled 106, 113, 120, and 126 throughout high school. So yeah.
Wow, yeah, cool, good stuff. And there's been somewhat of a rise in Rhode Island wrestling. I think you and a few other teammates you've had kind of I'd say the catalyst for that. So talk a little bit about that, the rise of Rhode Island wrestling.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely like I've seen it a lot just through my high school career. Like it's been a lot more exposure to wrestling in Rhode Island. A lot of clubs have started up. So when I was a freshman in high school, I was wrestling for John Clark's wrestling club. He's now the head coach at Sacred Heart, their D1 program in Connecticut. But he did a really good job just bringing a good culture into Rhode Island. He ran a club that had practice 7 days a week, which was 2 hours a day. So that was just a really good opportunity for a lot of kids in Rhode Island to just get mat time. And now we got a lot of other wrestling clubs that have started up. The assistant at Sacred Heart, Stephen Jarrell, who he wrestled for Johnson & Wales. He has his own club going now in Rhode Island called Iron Faith Wrestling Club. So he just started that about 3 months ago. And there's another club up in northern Rhode Island, Blackstone. So just like a lot of clubs that got started up recently. So pretty much a lot of kids are wrestling off season. A lot of kids are getting better, and they didn't have these opportunities like 6-7 years ago. I mean, maybe not even 4 years ago. So, I mean, the culture is just growing. Everyone's starting to wrestle more in the off season, and kids are also starting to go Division I too. Like, I know previously a lot of the kids who would win states, have successful high school careers, they would just kind of go Division 3 or like programs that are local. Not not really, just because they don't really know like the recruiting process, and just because they were unfamiliar with everything, because like wrestling wasn't always like a big thing up here. So just not having the tools. And now that we've had some guys go Division 1, like Ebba Jarrell, and he wrestled at Drexel, he's been helping out a lot of guys with the recruiting process, reaching out to some coaches, and just helping kids get their feet in the water with committing to Division 1 programs if that's what they want to do. So my grade is we have me, and then another kid, Josiah Fry, he's going to Campbell this year, and then Mason Clark's going to Columbia. So 2 other D1 programs, and then one of my teammates, Nick Fine, is also going to Columbia, so New York program. So it's good to see the community kind of evolving and getting better.
Yeah, that is real cool. And since I live in New York, I'll definitely be able to see those guys scrapping at Columbia.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah. Well, go ahead. You were saying something.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it is real cool to see that. But what was the decision? Because it seemed like you all kind of came together and decided, all right, we're all going to go D1. We had more success than we usually do coming out of Rhode Island, so we're all going to try and do big things. Was it like that, or was it just a coincidence?
It was, I guess it was kind of a little bit of both. Like, we didn't really kind of say that explicitly, but like we kind of like dedicated our life to it to an extent. Like we were wrestling like every day, and we were getting in the weight room, and we were just putting a ton of work in, to where it was like we gotta do good at NHSCA. We gotta like kind of put Rhode Island on the map with wrestling. So we were even wrestling like at each other's like houses at points, like just to get some extra mat time in. And during the season, like even before dual meets, like there was times like my senior year, like right before dual meet, I would just be in a club room with Steve and Jarrell, and we'd be going over some technique right before a match, just like reviewing film and stuff. So we all 4 of us had like a real close bond, and we kind of just we built each other up through like wrestling, just through like staying in the room and stuff. So I think we kind of just, at that point, like after we were just working so hard and committing so much of ourselves to wrestling, it was kind of just like we're gonna go D1, we're gonna push ourselves and just see how far we can go with this.
Yeah, definitely. That's a plan. Yeah, it's a good plan right there. So, like, what do you think's gonna happen in the foreseeable future? Like, where do you see yourself at?
So this year is just kind of a crazy year with COVID and everything. So obviously I didn't compete this year, but plan on possibly competing next year, hopefully, going 125 and just getting after it. My goal is to be an NCAA champion, All-American. So that's what I've always been striving for since I was just a kid, since I've been wrestling for most of my life, since I was 7 years old. So I plan on, I could redshirt next year. I don't really know if I will, because I didn't compete this year. So I don't know if I'll redshirt or not next year, but I do feel like I'll be ready to compete next year, go 125, and just get after it, wrestle tough, and just chase my dream of being an NCAA champion, an American. So
yeah, definitely. I don't think they've had one yet, to my knowledge.
The program's only had one. It was Josh Glenn. I think he was a heavyweight. So, but other than that, he's the only champion in history, I believe.
Wow. Yeah. So you can definitely be the next one. I think that's really cool. But what made you choose American though? Because Nick's at Columbia, which is a great place. You said the other guy that you were close with, he's at Columbia. I know there's no D1 programs in Rhode Island, but there's other D1 programs around. But for some reason, you decided to go all the way down to Washington, D.C.
Yeah. I mean, I was I was looking at some programs like Sacred Heart because John Clark, since he was my club coach when I was younger, and we had really good chemistry. So I was looking at Sacred Heart in Connecticut, and then I was also looking at like University of Virginia, and I was getting recruited by the Duke coach and stuff too. But I mean, after I placed my senior year third at NHSCA at 113, the coach at American called me up and he said like come down for a visit. So I went down for my official visit there, and that was my first official visit too, because all my other visits up to that point were unofficials. So it just felt like really good to see the coach of American kind of reach out like that. It seemed like he was really interested in me. And then when I went down for the visit, I loved the visit. We toured DC, we ate down there, got to visit the monuments, Lincoln Washington Monument and everything. And then I got to watch a couple of team practices too, and I love the area. So I mean, it was just really that official visit that kind of drew me into the program. And then I also got to stay overnight and live with some of the team. Like they had a team house that a couple of the wrestlers lived in. So I got to kind of connect with them while I was there, and I just really liked kind of the atmosphere. So that kind of just the quality of the visit compared to other schools, it was like something I could really see myself being in the future. So that's kind of like the biggest thing that drew me in.
Yeah, and that's really like kind of interesting, just the contrast, because once you took third, you had coaches looking at you. Me and usually people from the area that I wrestled at in high school, we have to we have to go out and actually kind of let coaches know, hey, we're kind of here. You might want us on your team. So, like for me, for example, the whole time I've been communicating with coaches, calling them and emailing them, and no one's really like looking at me. But then again, similar to Rhode Island, New York City, we don't usually have many great wrestlers. You're starting to get some here and there, kind of like Rhode Island. But usually we're not doing too great to where coaches are just calling us up, because I'm pretty sure American probably wasn't your first initial thought, but then you place at nationals and then they're like, oh, I want this kid. So like I think it's kind of cool to see like the contrast, but
yeah,
then again, the same amount of work has to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was refreshing too, because I mean, like I was in that exact situation, like kind of like, all right, where am I gonna land after high school? Like I was sending like tons of emails to Division I programs of like my accolades, like where I placed it, like big tournaments, like significant wins I had, and like so I was really like putting my trying to put my name out to these programs, and like some programs did like answer and like did show some interest, and then obviously there was like bigger programs that just like never got back to me. So obviously that's always a tough pill to swallow when they don't really have interest in you. But then when you do have a good performance at a big tournament, and then the coach actually like gets your phone number and calls you up through the phone, it does feel good to not have to reach out to the program and to see they have interest in you. So I mean, that was a big thing, just a change of pace with that in terms of the recruiting process and everything.
Yeah, it definitely is really cool. And but there's one thing I don't like about the recruiting process. When you visit a school, 9 times out of 10, well, I think the rule is you're not allowed to actually practice or actually get on the mat. Of course, some schools break that rule. I know where I'm at, Niagara does, because when I first got up here, the coach was actually nearby, and like I was, I didn't get to wrestle him that day because I guess he had something to do. But usually when people come up here, they're able to like wrestle in the room and things like that when they quote unquote visit. So, but I know that when you take official visits, you're not exactly allowed to practice, and I'm not really too much a fan of that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I have the same view as you. I mean, I don't like that rule either. And I was trying to wrestle at some of those programs I visited, like University of Virginia and whatnot. So, but they did follow the rules, obviously, all the programs I visited. But like you said, though, sometimes, I mean, I would assume, sometimes they wouldn't follow it. I do know, I think there is kind of like a loophole to that rule where it's like, if you, I don't know what the specifics of it is though, but like, if you lived within a certain like range of that program that you're visiting, like, you could be like wrestling for the regional training center if they had one. And I mean, that would technically be a loophole if you were practicing through the RTC and not the Division I program. But so I think that's what they said when I went to UVA and American. So obviously, since I'm from Massachusetts, I wouldn't be within, I don't even know what the range was, like maybe like 100 or 200 miles. But like, if I was to visit Brown, like, which is only 30 minutes from me, I think I could legally roll in the room and stuff if it was like a RTC practice, and possibly roll with some guys and the coach and stuff like that. So I think that is kind of a loophole, but obviously I didn't get to do that since the schools I were visiting were so far away from me and whatnot.
That's interesting. See, I'm glad you brought that up, because now I'm gonna hold on to that info, because as the listeners might know, I'm at a JUCO school right now, so I'm gonna go to 4-year after, and I happen to live in New York City, so I live in the Bronx. I know Columbia is in Manhattan. I've been to Columbia a million times, but if I ever decide to go visit there, I'm guessing I could take advantage of the loophole since I really don't live far at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and actually, there was one time in high school where I actually had some friends at a nearby college, a D3 school, and I was actually able to practice with them a little bit. Yeah, I totally broke I think that was a big rule that they broke. But, they were transitioning from one coach to another, so at those practices, they didn't officially have a coach yet. So the captain was running things, and, I needed a place to train, right? Before the season had started and all that. I Beat the Streets wasn't doing anything at the moment. My school hadn't started yet. There was like a down period, those down periods before the season. And I didn't want to take any time off, so I had some friends at that place, and then I asked if I can go, and then I was able to practice a little bit. Obviously, it didn't last long, but I think it helped, even though I broke a big rule.
Yeah, whatever you can do.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask about that then. So, like, if you had the opportunity to do something like that, would you take that risk?
I mean, if my training wasn't where it needed to be, and I just didn't have the right tools, then I think I would take that risk personally, because I mean, you need to train, you need to get better. So yeah, I would.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would. And I want to ask, it seems like you guys, you all trained together when you were in Rhode Island, things like that. So what made you guys separate? I thought that maybe you'd all try to go to the same college.
I mean, it was we're all kind of getting recruited by different places, and we also kind of almost had like we all had a similar mentality with wrestling, with like making it an integral part of our lives and everything, and like our commitment to the sport. But like Nick Fine and Mason Clark, the two kids that are at Columbia right now. Well, Nick's a senior this year in high school, so he'll be there next year. But I mean, not to say that I wasn't like dedicated academically. It was just that like they were extremely dedicated academically, and honestly, they kind of I know Nick for certain. He it was a goal of his to go to an Ivy League program since he was like younger. So his goals were like a lot more oriented towards going D1 and going to an Ivy League program too, where I was obviously Ivy League wasn't out of the picture for me, but like the biggest goal for me was to just go Division I, go to a program that I thought was best for me. Didn't necessarily have to be Ivy. And then same thing with Mason Clark. I mean, I don't know about like his goal since he was younger, but I know he had a 4.0 GPA. He was in AP courses, so he was just excelled a lot on the in the books and stuff. So I didn't have a perfect GPA like that. It was a solid GPA, like 3.6, about maybe 3.7, but I mean, just kind of a difference in pace there. And then yeah, we're kind of different weights too, so we were just getting recruited by different programs, and then combine that with the academics. So Josiah Fry landed at Campbell in North Carolina, and he's my weight too. He's a 125 pounder. And then yeah, I mean, Nick and Mason were just super scholars, to say, and excelled on the mat. So I mean, Columbia is definitely probably a better fit for them than me, where I thought American would be a good fit for me. So I mean, just kind of a difference in pace there, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people forget the academic aspect. You know, you can't just go to a school just because they have good wrestling. You need to also take into account why, you know, what you're actually there for. You're actually there to go to school, and if you can't hang academically, you're not gonna be able to wrestle. That's why a lot of us are at JUCO schools. Really, you know, it's not because of money or anything like that. It's really just because of academics. And just like you know, my grades were really good in high school, but they weren't in Ivy League level. There was no way I was going to get into Ivy League right out of high school. You were able to do it, but I don't think I was ever going to be able to do that. So I think I made the right choice. I may be able to go to Ivy League after I graduate from it. Who knows? But I think that's really cool that they were able to really balance that out, being really good wrestlers and being really good academically. That's hard to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So now it's like, you know, you're at American. Crazy things happened with American. Crazy things happened with the EIWAs in general, I think. Because it's usually the Cornell show, but then a bunch of things happened and a bunch of things changed. And the whole conference just went out of whack. So it's like, you know, you guys have been training all that, you said, as much as you guys could, but where do you think you're going to be prepared for next season?
I mean, I do. I think I'll be prepared. I mean, it seems like COVID is kind of it seems like it's going to be done soon. Like, obviously not completely, but I mean, I feel like things are going to start getting back to normal pretty soon once all the vaccines start getting distributed and the majority of people can get their hands on them. So I mean, I know this year at American the training wasn't ideal with in terms of practicing and everything, but I think over this off season, I don't really know how the off season is going to go this year yet, since American still has two kids who were wrestling at the NCAA tournament. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens once the NCAAs are done with, and what happens with a new head coach, and how the program decides to move along with training, whether like what day we'll start, and just kind of how we'll do it, since a lot of stuff has been changing and is kind of like a lot of moving parts at one time. But just with the way COVID is going in general and everything, I do think that I'll be prepared, and I think the quality of training will be better than this year.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy, but yeah, next year things should be better. But just to give a little example, so the JUCO season we're actually the latest season. So we started practicing in February, and nationals is going to be in about 5 weeks. So I mean, April 21st, 22nd, that's when we have a nationals, and we're going to be the last college division competing and having a nationals and things like that. It's great that we have it, but a 2-month season going into the national tournament when about 85% of the teams at the nationals have been practicing a lot longer than 2 months. I mean, I'm going to give my opinion, and I'm going to ask for your opinion on it. So my opinion is they found ways to keep training, but in my mind, I think it'd be a lot better if they wouldn't have done that. I think it would have been better if they sort of equalized the season somehow, because obviously with COVID and stuff, there's things we have to do, parameters we have to take. And as far as my school goes, we've been doing everything right. So I'm assuming that the other places have, maybe they haven't. I guess that depends on what state they live in, but the fact that they've been practicing for about 5-6 months, and we only get 2 months to actually train. We have our first dual meet this Friday. I mean, it's not really fair, in my opinion. But what's your opinion?
I completely agree with you that like from program to program, like however they handle it, it is going to play a role, I think, in the like results of competition. And like I know with at American, like a lot of kids were getting frustrated at times because there were a lot of shutdowns that had to happen because we were getting tested for COVID 3 times a week, and there was a couple times where kids on our team tested positive, and we either had to go on a 10-day period to where we couldn't wrestle and we were just doing cardio, or there was, and then right at the last straw of the season, a teammate tested positive, so we had to quarantine for I think another 10 or 11 days. So and then that ended up wiping out all of our dual meets we had scheduled, because we had to postpone a lot of them. Like Navy got rescheduled and then eventually canceled, and then I was getting ready to get down to weight for Bucknell, which was it was going to be on a Sunday, and then Friday, which was 2 or 3 days before that, Bucknell ended up canceling it because a lot of their athletic department was testing positive, and then one of our wrestlers tested positive too, so it got canceled, and then we had to quarantine for almost 2 weeks, which ended up wiping out the rest of our schedule that we had with like Lehigh and Mason. So I mean, yeah, with COVID and the protocols you have to take, it definitely it does impact how you're gonna wrestle just based on your training and stuff. So it's a tough situation.
Yeah, it definitely is. And with my school, just to give another example here, actually every other team has every other team here has been shut down at one point or another. Wrestling's actually the only team where we haven't had any shutdowns, which is surprising because we're literally grabbing each other for 2 hours straight. and the other teams, they're really not touching each other. They might all be touching the same objects, but with their sports, they don't have to touch each other too much. We're literally grabbing each other and things like that all the time, and none of us had tested positive or even came in contact with anybody who was. So, I mean, it's great, right? That's great that it's happening, that we've been able to somehow, stay away from it. But I know my teammates pretty well, and I know they're not really taking things very seriously. And I'm pretty sure what's going on at American, maybe some of your teammates probably aren't taking it as seriously as they should be, because why else would that have happened? But I can definitely attribute it to the fact that Washington, D.C. is a city, and I'm up in a country type area where there's a lot of space up in Niagara. So I guess that's really the main reason why. If it's a bunch of people in a place like that, like in a city type area, bunched together, then the odds of somebody testing positive, if they're not taking it seriously, it's going to happen the way it did. But up here, like my assistant coach even said, he was around a bunch of people that had it, but he had never gotten it, which is, I think I could just attribute that to the fact that we're in a wide open space.
Yeah. So, definitely all of that's true. Like especially with Washington, D.C., like really condensed area. So, I mean, it's gonna be a lot harder to not get it and stuff. But I mean, for the most part, like I don't really know like many of my teammates that like weren't taking it serious. I think it might have just been like tough. It's tough to not get it when you're in a city environment like that and everything. But and also too with like the protocols like of American too. A lot of times they're pretty difficult, but that is because how you said, like, since it's a big city like DC, the protocols that like the city adheres to are a lot more strict than like what they would be in maybe a smaller town up in upstate New York or like a spaced out area. So the college has to adhere to those protocols, so that makes it a lot more difficult to train adequately and consistently when you're kind of going through a problem like that. But I mean, like we had to wrestle with masks on too, which was another kind of obstacle, because I mean, as you know, it's pretty difficult to practice with masks on and stuff. So I mean,
I actually had to wear my mask at practice. I think it was the first week, because I had caught something on my face, and coach thought it was ringworm because it hadn't got very bad yet. He thought it was I think I actually told you this, but he thought it was ringworm at first because it didn't look too bad. And I'm asking him, you think I should practice? He said, I'm not scared of ringworm. So I'm like, all right. So I put tape on it, and then I kept my mask on. And I'm going through it the whole practice. It wasn't as hard as the later ones would be, but it was still college practice. And honestly, I didn't feel too bad. I really didn't. I've been practicing all summer, the way that we could. We've been doing things all summer and all that. We beat the streets and stuff. So I really wasn't out of shape at all. So wearing the mask, I really didn't feel much of a difference until I was sweating and all that. All the sweat built up in the mask and everything. So things kind of spread around my face and stuff, and then it wound up being something worse than ringworm. So I had to sit out of practice for a while. So yeah, that kind of hindered me a bit, because then the next practice I was at, when I got back, I was a little bit out of shape from that. But I mean, practicing with my mask, honestly, it didn't really affect me too much. I've heard from other teams that they were practicing with their mask on. I know University of North Carolina, they practice with their mask on and stuff. And honestly, it doesn't really seem to be affecting them that much. There's even places where they're wrestling matches with their mask on. So I don't know if it's maybe it's just person to person, or how you wrestle or anything like that. So I know like you're really fast, you have like a high impact style, so of course if you have a mask on, you're gonna get out of breath a lot quicker. Me, I'm not that fast, so I'm taking my time a little bit. So me wearing a mask while I wrestle. I'm not moving around fast anyway, so I guess it'll take me a little longer to be out of breath. But honestly, the whole wearing mask thing, I see how it helps, but we gotta get to a point where, we shouldn't have to do that because, like you said, it's not going to be easy to train correctly when you have a mask on because you're just not breathing correctly.
And it does get difficult when like sweat's getting in your mask, like you said, for you and stuff. But it obviously wasn't to the point where like I can't train right now because I'm wearing a mask when wrestling. It just I guess it's like a different feel. But and then also too, like sometimes like masks will break, especially if they're surgical masks and stuff. So had to sometimes kids have to like tape up their whole head to get their mask back on and stuff. So there's kind of little problems like that. But I guess like a positive view of it is that it might enhance your conditioning since it's kind of more difficult to get air than if you don't have a mask on. So
yeah, that is a positive. Like, I don't know how you guys, what your parameters are over there in terms of everything else within athletics, but with us, they make us wear a mask in the weight room, and sometimes that gets a little tough. Like when I'm lifting, I'll wear my mask, but when I'm running on the treadmill, I have to take that thing off.
We wear our masks like no matter what we do, like lifting, conditioning. So like so weightlifting, we have our mask on. We're on the bike, we're on the treadmill. We gotta keep it on because the protocols are pretty strict, and especially since we're in a city and the quarantine procedures very strict as well. So they're doing everything they can to prevent the spread of it, just because of how big the stakes are if someone gets it, like we've seen already. But even like just the kids who are competing at NCAAs, that's pretty much the only kids who are practicing right now because they don't want to. The administration doesn't want to risk like kids who aren't competing, even if they're part of the team, to bring COVID in and like make someone have to quarantine. So they're taking it seriously, and it's a good thing. It's just it is difficult that it's a city environment, and it makes the spread of it a lot more difficult to control. But it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, and it's good that we're seemingly on the back end of this. So, like, when you're not able to practice, are you going on flow and things like that, or are you just in the weight room and stuff?
Well, I'm actually so I'm home right now. So we had a lot of guys who did opt out of competition. I was one of them, just because I was getting down to weight for the Bucknell dual meet. I was planning on wrestling 133 because I didn't really get to wrestle as much as I would have liked to, and so my weight, I was a little heavy. I was like 140, so I was starting to like run and wrestle and get my weight down to 133 for Bucknell. But then the about nearly 2 week shutdown happened because of COVID and everything. So we the whole team had to quarantine. So I couldn't really keep a watch on my weight because I couldn't go to the gym or like anything like that. I was just staying in the dorms at American because I had to follow protocol procedures, and the only time you could really leave the dorm is if we were gonna like be grabbing food and stuff. So and then by the time our quarantine period was over, we only would have had like 3 or 4 days to train before the EIWA tournament. So only 4 kids on our team didn't opt out of competition, but they obviously were just gonna let everything fly. They had nothing to lose really, because as you know, this year is just a free year of competition. because everyone gets this year back for eligibility. So even with those tight conditions and circumstances, we had 4 guys who were still going to compete at EIWAs despite that happening to our team, and 3 guys ended up competing because one of our wrestlers got COVID, so he couldn't compete. But so it was just, so I'm home right now, and I'm wrestling at Iron Faiths Wrestling Club, like I said earlier, that's run by Steven Jarrell. So I'm wrestling there, and I'm also lifting weights over at the gym by me and stuff, and just kind of staying in shape up here since if you opted out, you're not able to train down in American until NCAAs are finished and everything, just to prevent the spread and stuff. So
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, a lot of people up here that are not athletes, they actually went back down to New York City and just rode out the semester down there. Even me, I never actually went back. Like for Thanksgiving break, for example, I didn't go back because if I had went back, no matter what, I would have had to come back up here in quarantine. And I thought that really wouldn't make sense, because traveling 8-9 hours down there, having fun, but then you're traveling 8-9 hours back up here, and then I gotta, I really didn't want to. I didn't even want to think about quarantine up there, so I just opted out of that. But I went home for winter break, obviously. And then, there's plenty of people that went back home and stuff like that, doing things online. Some of my teammates they were strictly doing things online. They didn't have any in-person classes for a while. I don't have any in-person classes at all, but I'm in the dorms. I'm actually the only teammate that's in the dorms. Every other teammate that doesn't really live close enough to the college, they just decided to stay home or get a place somewhere else. They didn't want to come to the dorms, which I'm guessing it's good and bad in different ways, because in the dorms, there's a lot more leeway than if you actually get an actual apartment. But some of them actually couldn't, because you can't lease an apartment for like 2-3 months. I guess that's how it is up here. I don't know how it is everywhere else, but up here you can't do that. You need to lease it for like a longer time than that.
The dorms, there's definitely more flexibility, and you can leave after the semester and everything. But
yeah, and in terms of money, because that's been affecting everybody lately. With the dorms, pay one time and then that's it. Whether it's financial aid, whether it's out of pocket, whatever, you pay one time, that's it. If you're leasing an apartment, for those of you listening that pay rent and stuff, you know how that is. So and there's other bills you gotta pay and all that. Dorms, you pay one time, they give everything. So, and there's pros and cons to it because of the parameters that we're in. But in terms of this season, I mean, I don't know. it's gonna be fun, because I'm definitely gonna, we got a dual meet this Friday. It's great that we have a season. It seems like the junior college wrestlers, it seems like we have the most stability, really, and the D1 guys, because I know D2 and D3, things got like hectic. They won't even have a legitimate nationals going on. The IWA guys and the Ivy League guys, I know you guys are like, it's just been a bunch of turmoil. Like Cornell didn't even decide to compete this year, so it's a lot of crazy stuff going on. But it'll definitely be interesting to actually compete against some other guys and see see what I can do. And as far as you go, you're training down where you're at still and all that. Are they like testing you before you go in there and stuff?
I mean, no, not right now, since I'm home and it's just my local club and everything. I'm not getting tested right now, but I mean, if I had symptoms or anything like that, I would go and get tested, but obviously not going to practice and everything. But there's no testing back home right now, so
I see that. Yeah, I wanted to practice and all that during like winter break, but my parents were saying, since they're not testing you, we're not gonna let you go. I'm like, wow. All right. Yeah, and it's a little bit different for me than, well, I guess, it's not actually different. We're both grown men, but yet because of the parameters, when there's still plenty of rules we have to follow. It's like, I understand it. Take it seriously, right? This is a big deal, but if it's your local club or if it's within like the 5 boroughs for me, and it's obvious that if you're doing everything you have to do, then I mean the chances of any of us getting it is highly unlikely, because I was still walking around the city and stuff, going places, and this is in a city, so I'm around still a decent amount of people and things like that, and not one time did I test positive. So
yeah,
I don't really see any reason for them to restrict me from practicing, but I was still able to do other things and all that. Like in the summer, we were practicing in a park or beat the streets and all that because couldn't get on a mat. So there's other things I was able to do and things like that, keep myself in shape and all that. And you're obviously taking advantage of the stuff you've got down there, being able to train and all that stuff. So it's good that you're still doing something, but I know you would have rather liked to compete.
So.
But I guess we'll just end it off there. It's been a crazy year. It's been a hectic year. The season's definitely different, but I'll try to do the best that I can do. I know what my goal is, but I'll try to get to that as best I can. And as far as you go, keep grinding, keep training, stay safe. And
thank you, man. Thanks.
Get ready for next season.
What team you guys facing on Friday?
So we're going against Lackawanna. Do you know them?
But no.
And
gotcha. Yeah, good luck.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, it's a tri-meet. It's a tri-meet. So we got one, then we got the other. And the unique thing about this is there's multiple guys in every weight class. Our team's always big. So we just had the wrestle-offs yesterday. I didn't do too good. But the other guy at 133, I think he's going to get one, and I'm going to get the other. And I heard Coach talking about this. He actually said that, and it's mostly because of, the parameters that we're in. He said that he's not going to put one guy in the whole time for anybody in any weight class. Every week he's going to send one guy in, and then next week he'll have another guy in. And I guess it'll just be based on how we perform. I don't even think it's necessarily about the wins and losses. I think it's just how we perform and how we do during practice, who attends practice more than the other, things like that. And I guess that'll determine who we put in the regional tournament, because only one person could go into the regional. Yeah, it's a good way to
do it, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. So,
all right. Thanks for having me,
coming on.
All right, see ya.
No problem. See you around.